And we are live.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to the Coach and Consultant Coffee Time Monday morning. We were at the AOLS AGM last week and doing our coach and consultant service there. So I'm Chair Cunningham. I'm your coach.
And I'm Jim Pillow. I'm your consultant. And for those of you who may not know, the AOLS is the Association of Ontario Land Surveyors.
It was great to be there. We did a webinar for them in January about how do you transform profit to wealth, and we delivered a session on how do you build a profitable business in the first place so you can transform profit to wealth while we were at the conference. We had a lot of questions after that, both from the webinar and from that session, as people started to consider being more intentional about their business and treating their small business with more respect.
We worked backwards, as Cher just mentioned, from the profit to wealth piece and back into the revenue to profit piece. And there were a lot of interesting conversations as people assembled those two pieces in their mind. And one of the common themes, I would say, in the membership that we spoke to, and there were really two groups of people that we spoke to. There were people just getting into business, which is a very typical thing for a surveyor to do, is to start their own business. They're professionals like accountants and lawyers, so they tend to start their own businesses or often acquire businesses. And there was a group of older surveyors who were leaving their businesses, either transitioning them to their children, next generation, or selling them to either a larger company or to an individual surveyor. So there was a very good cross-section of people that we spoke to, but those were the two main groups.
And what we find, one of the reasons we love working with professional services companies is because they tend to be so dedicated to providing great service, and they're very smart people. But what can be left behind is the business know-how that is required to build that profit. And also for the business owner, there's a sense of collegial sharing and respect that can sometimes get in the way of remembering that the business they started is risky and should have a return on risk. So exit planning is something that they often don't think about until it may even be too late. But one of the questions that came up was, what is too late?
There were a lot of conversations about exit with the younger group as they were entering and understanding how and what business knowledge you needed, but very much the conversations with the older group, I guess I would call them, was about, is it too late for me? We spoke to people even who had already sold their business and were still working because they hadn't really accomplished financially what they were hoping to accomplish during the time that they owned their business, which for many of them was most of their working lives.
Yeah, so some of the younger surveyors who weren't even in business, some of them, the question was, how soon is too early as well? And I think there's no such thing as too early or too late. You deserve to have a conversation with us and find out, where am I actually at, instead of assuming. We all have crazy mindsets around money, and until we don't, but most of us have a lot of baggage about money. And so having that conversation can feel a little bit intimidating. One of the things that I see a lot of is people think their business is worse off than it really is. They think that they are worse at managing money or managing their business than they really are. And so they are afraid to look inside. But then when you do actually take a look, everything's figure outable. You can always take a look at what's going on and say, how can this be better? We've seen so many things. There's no embarrassment. There's no shame in the fact that you're incredibly great at what you do, and maybe you're not as great at finance. Getting the expert advice on that, there's no wrong timing to get started on that.
So businesses, math, and have a plan are two of the main messages that we took to our concurrent session. The folks we spoke to who had exited, a common observation to us, or a bit of wistfulness maybe, was, gosh, I wish I'd met you 20 years earlier. There were some folks who were planning to exit their business relatively shortly And we think we're going to be able to have an impact on a lot of those people with a sort of 2-year-ish window. There's actually some things that can still be done to make your exit more profitable and more tax effective. And of course, it's never too early to have an intention about what it is that you're trying to create and the reason why you're trying to create it, which for most people is to have the life that they want to live.
And so what was interesting as well, often in professional services, if it's a small business, there may be a transition to a loyal employee or to one of your family members. And there's even more flexibility about what you can do there. There's a bit of a magic cutoff around the age of 70 or just before the age of 70 that you want to have things put in place that essentially allow a forward-looking return on your risk that can be built into the business. So there are always options to look at, and if they work for you, you owe it to yourself to find out. That 2-year window, though, that's kind of a magical one for selling your business as well. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm thinking 2 or 3 years out, or thinking of selling right now, but I don't have to, having a chance to understand the difference it would make to take 2 or 3 years to have a runway to the exit, I think is really important.
There are some financial tools that can be used to facilitate your exit and make it as monetarily valuable as it can be. And there are some tax strategies to apply.
Our marketing director has us doing some themed videos rolling up to our Built to Sell and our financial wisdom sessions that are coming up in the next couple of months. And so you're going to hear a little bit more about this theme as we roll through March and April, just talking about what you can do to maximize this business that you've created. You poured your blood, sweat, and tears into it, and it may not yet love you back. Starting with the exit, that beginning with the end in sight is always a brilliant shift in your trajectory. It doesn't take a huge amount of work to just shift a couple of degrees so that the end result is significantly better.
Intention is one of the most important things that you can bring to your business. And we are delighted to be working with a number of business owners across a range of professional services to help them so that they can add the business knowledge to their intentionality around their business.
Yeah, professional services are a very interesting place of excellence for us because sometimes the business owners think this is too complicated. The way that we've had to build our equity or build our profit sharing, it's too complex, and they can feel a little bit stuck and maybe like they've made some tricky decisions that have them trapped. But of course, that is not the case.
No.
It really is just let's consider all that. Whether you've got some employee ownership, whether you've got some pieces that you want to ensure carry forward at the end of the business after you've exited the active business. It's just a matter of sitting down and capturing your intentions. Your intentions can absolutely carry forward with the right planning.
So thank you for joining us this morning. I am Jim Pillow. I am your consultant.
And I'm Cher Cunningham. I'm your coach. We'll see you in future videos on this over the coming weeks. And as always, if you have questions, if you're wondering, does this apply to me and how, do reach out to us. We look forward to talking to you.